Hey, everybody, it's Keith with Trades Education Center. We're back with an episode of Trades Secrets, the official podcast of Trades Education Center. And I am very excited today to be joined by, somebody that's been a longtime supporter of us, even from when it was an idea. I believe this is Doug Dyson with United Sales Agency. And I met Doug at a Milwaukee Tool Day at Gainesville Wynn Nelson.
Yeah.
And that was when this place was still an idea. And Tim was like, "Hey, Keith, I need you to talk to Doug and tell him what we're doing."
I remember that. And we're excited to be able to support. We know that my future as a sales guy depends on having plumbers in the trade. And so any opportunity we get to support that effort, we want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's for those of you who don't know us or know the plumbing industry, if you're buying something Milwaukee related in the area, this guy probably has something to do with it. If not a number of other lines, I can't remember all the other lines you have, but we're going to get into it. So first, I want to ask Doug, how did you get into this wonderful world called plumbing?
Yeah. Once you get in, you can't get out. So it's like mafia, I guess.
It's like a Hotel California, right?
Yeah. We can. Yeah. Anyway, I was out of college. I migrated towards operations. That's really my strength. My mind works there. I was working for a company that ultimately decided they didn't need an operations manager, and so I was left, kind of wondering what am I going to do here? And essentially what I heard, and I don't think they said it quite this way, but what I understood was, hey, if you're not in sales, you're not productive. And so my mind immediately went to sales. And so I started looking around. And at that time, Atlanta was sort of on the launching pad, getting ready to take off in terms of construction. And I had the good fortune to find a guy who was also an Auburn grad. Forgive me for that. But he was at Nolan Company in Atlanta, and they were doing a training program. And so that's kind of how I got in. Ground level, didn't know anything, as we were talking earlier. Didn't know a quarter bend from a 90 or whatever, water heater from a toilet. But I went through that program, and so that's where I got in. I got in on the wholesale side, and that was a good training ground for me at that time.
So you'd mentioned when you got in with them, they had a training program.
Yeah. They had at that time, Ferguson had a program, a formalized program where they would hire college, and they still do it this way.
Okay.
And bring them in at the beginning. You go in to receiving, shipping, and then you just work through every aspect, operations, and then ultimately the idea being that you would wind up in sales in some way. So, because of what had happened previously, I knew I wanted to be in sales, and so I knew I needed to learn the product for sure. And it was a really good training program for me. As we had talked, I sort of trained under a guy who was old school, who was managing the counter area. Gene Turner was his name, and he's like that teacher that you hated but you loved because he was so hard. And there was
you learned a lot.
Way. Yeah, I learned and learned it the right way. As we talked, nomenclature can be confusing, particularly in the plumbing business. But he was so good for me and good to me. I guess he saw something in me, and he just would not let up on me. So if I feel like I learned, the nomenclature in the process the right way.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's what we're seeing now is we're begging and pleading the quote unquote old school guys of today to stay around and make sure that they do that type of thing and invest. And I know it's a little different now. Every generation is different, right?
That's what I learned in school. I went back and got my MBA several years ago, and they talked about the different generations. And yes, they are very different. It was interesting to learn through that process. But yeah, we're different. And right now, what I'm told, it's the first time in history that we've got 4 different generations in the workforce, and so we are very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and because of that, I'm sure the training that you had probably has to look a little different today than it did back then. just because it might not be received the same. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
I think everything. I always go. I'm a simple guy, and I always go to sports and go to coaches because I love coaches. And so it's it's like coaching. You've got to be effective in your communication. You may know it. You may be really good at it. But what I found is communication, like everything, is critical. It's critical, and as I get older, you talk about old school. As I get older, I began to realize that there is still a really good place for the older guys, and is that we would be embracing the mentoring like you guys are doing, the teaching, because we've got a wealth of knowledge. There's still value to it for us, particularly in that process of helping guys to learn and come along.
Cool. So once you got started with Nolan
Mm.
and got trained up and got to the point where you know, you've learned. I think that's another thing that I'm learning too is in order to do the sales side of it, you have to know product. You have to know product. And
Yes,
so I it
it's confidence, and knowing your product is where confidence it comes from. Knowing how that product works, that it does work well. For me, it is all about the confidence level. Yes.
because otherwise, how do you walk in the door and convince someone to buy anything if you don't believe in the product yourself, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The stereotypical used car salesman, that kind of thing. Just put somebody in it or sell them something. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in being confident in the product, that it works, and we're fortunate to have lines that are just that. Yeah, yeah.
So now, how do you go from you get into sales with Nolan? How do you move to where you are today? Is that a short or long? We can take as long as you want.
Yeah, it's like I say, once you get in, I know a lot of guys that have moved around. And back in the day, it felt like everybody that I knew, whether it was with a manufacturer or with a rep or with another wholesale distributor, I always felt like, guys, everybody started at Nolan. That's not true, but
Felt like it.
the wholesale, whether at Ferguson, when Nelson, um, it's a good place to start. That was a good place for me to start. I I just a little background on me. I believe that God is sovereign, and He. Um, I have a friend who says He engineers our circumstances, and so in my circumstances, I happen to be in church with the Pulleys, and a lot of guys in the business know the Pulleys. They've got the premier rep agency in Georgia, and I had conversations with them. I was working for Nolan. I didn't know them that well, but a couple of times they had said something about they were looking for, and it just kind of went over my head. And finally, Nolan went through a transition prior to the win by, and they were they had hired a new president come down to Atlanta, and the guy told our branch manager, "You need to fire every one of your sales managers because they're not making good margins." And it was a wake up call for me.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we, I was
Got called out.
selling at 12% margin or whatever it was. I can't remember, but it was a wake up call for me. I was like, I don't know if this is where I want to be. And the other thing was, I felt like on the wholesale side, and those guys who are in that, I think I'm not telling any stories or knocking them, but it feels like you've always got like 10 or 12 things that you should have gotten done yesterday,
Mm.
just so busy. And at that time, as I say, the market was going crazy. And so I felt like maybe if I could get on the rep side, I could be a little more proactive and do a little more selling. And so one thing led to another, and I wound up at Pulley and Associates. So I went into outside sales with those guys. So now I had distributor practice education experience. Now this gave me rep experience, and I kind of felt like it would be awesome to have some ownership, like everybody. I think you dream about having your own business or having some part of a business. Those guys, the three brothers, Eddie, who I love, who really trained me, EB, who is passed now, but he was such a great guy, such a great teacher, and then Eddie was so talented, is so talented. I learned so much from him, and then Charlie, his brother, who's my age, and Steve, the younger brother. Those guys, I realized, look, it's a family business, and they are very qualified. And then and they have David Weiss, who has some ownership as well. And I thought, you know what, I'm never gonna, and that's okay. And but it for me, it was kind of a, I can tend to be a little bit half empty kind of guy, and so I found myself, sort of,
Woe was me.
yeah, well, just kind of, I can't make the call, I can't make the decisions, and so anyway, it led me to a place where I wound up looking for another opportunity, maybe to grow, to get in a more advanced position, and so I wound up with a manufacturer. I wound up as a regional sales manager with a company called Accor, which is the flow tight push on angle stop
Oh, okay.
guys.
Okay.
And it was at a time when they had gone through a transition. They had to retool their product, had an issue with the way the thing was made, and it was just such a great product. It was so fun to sell because it was so unique, and there was nothing else like it out there.
Wow.
And so I got 3 or 4 years there, which was awesome. So now I had distributor, I
Wholesale.
had rep, and now I had experience with the manufacturer.
Wow.
And so then looking to hire somebody as a rep, and I begged the police to take it. They were like, no, we've got, our plate is full. And so I wound up, Kevin Crane, who was Pete Cook's original partner with United Sales, lived in my neighborhood, and I knew those guys. And so I approached them about it, and I said, hey, look, if y'all will just take it, I'll be your sales guy in Georgia. And so they said, okay, and so we wound up doing really well with it. Like I say, it was so much fun to sell, and I enjoyed it. And then at some point, they added a water heater line and a China line. They had not really had any experience, and I'd had it. And so they invited me to come join them. And I worked equity into ownership. And so, like I say, God is sovereign. He ordered those steps just very clearly for me. And I'm so thankful to those guys, to Pete and Kevin, that they gave me the opportunity. And so now, I'm a majority owner of the company, which is, I still pinch myself like,
That's
what were
pretty
they
cool,
thinking?
right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean that I think hearing, as I've been learning about the industry, I think like I'm ticking them off like in my mind. I'm like, man, you've gone learned the basics, come up from the beginning in three of the five, really three of the five categories of the plumbing industry.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a three-star general right there. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the only thing, that is not in there is, actually, either being in the field or being in like facilities maintenance,
Right.
or something,
Yeah.
those are three biggies though,
Yeah.
to be able to make it in all three and to be successful in all three.
Right.
Um, and that is, I like your sovereignty idea too, because that I fully agree with
Yeah,
that as
it's
well.
kind of cool that you guys are in a church. It's just really awesome. And I know y'all are thankful for the opportunity and the partnership there. But what I will say is, I do wish, and I've often thought about trying to go back and get my license. And so for those guys who may be listening or hear this or thinking, to have the practical side, to have the training in terms of the actual field installation, repair, um, that that would be an even better basis. I do. I wish that I'd had the opportunity and could have taken the time to do that. And every guy that I see, we met at a counter day. Every young guy that I meet at a counter day, I always say, "Have you
Go
got your
get it.
license? Have you got your license? Have you got your license?" And
Yeah.
many of them are saying, I'm working on it." And I continue to tell those guys, "Stay in it, stay in it." It's not an easy process, but I don't think any process that's worth being involved in is easy. What I do know in terms of all of those places that I've been, in terms of the jobs positions that I've had, I've met a lot of guys, and I'll just tell you, some of the wealthiest people I know are plumbers, and they're never gonna. I mean that, and they're never gonna be in want for a job. Any of the trades, obviously, we're looking at
Yeah.
AI and all the threats to the jobs, and in fact, what we're hearing, what I've heard is, for every three guys that are leaving the trade, whether it be by retirement or just get out, that there's only one person
Hmm.
coming back filling in. And so, that tells me that not only are you never going to look for a job, have want for a job, but also the rates are going up because
Yeah.
it's not something that everybody can do. And so,
No.
again, my family is dependent on those guys. It's crazy because as a rep, I can't sell directly to a plumber. We sell wholesale only. We don't sell direct. So anything I can do to stay engaged with those guys and encourage them, because my family depends on them putting in our products.
Yeah.
So we're thankful for them.
Well, I want to ask you two more things because what I'm hearing too, as you share the story going from Nolan to Pulley to Flowtight, and now then to United Sales, what I hear a number of names of people, and the fact that you still have relationships with all of them. So, can you speak to the importance of relationships and just integrity when it comes to that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've got a 27-year-old son, and like any dad, I think you try to teach your kids, to um, network, especially as they get older. But the idea that that I think the saying is, it's not what you know, it's who you know,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some truth to that. So staying involved, staying networked, staying connected, whether it's on an area or larger out. My partner, my current partner, Lawson Cook, he is fantastic at being connected to other rep agencies. I'm more of a head down guy and local, and that, not to say that he's not a local guy either. But it's critical. It is so critical that you have connections, and then that integrity component to it, that people uh, believe that you will do what you say. Um, and I feel like people are attracted to that. I know they are. I know I am.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to have doubts about whether a guy's going to do what he says he does. So anyway, yeah, just one, it's not who you know, it's or not what you know, it's who you know, and two, do what you say you're going to do. And I think in the trades, there's so much truth to that. There
Mm-hmm.
you can get into it and just do a job. But I like the Dave Ramsey thought, that the heart of a teacher, which for the service guys is not good because it slows you down, and time is money.
Yeah.
But that you would explain what you're seeing and why you think what the answer is, what it is, and then to have that dialogue, so that that people um, can buy into it, have trust. I think it's critical. It is. I know it's critical. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's like you said, as big as the industry is, it's awfully small. In terms of like either really good word gets around about
Yeah.
you or really bad word gets
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
about you.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I think what you're talking about with relationships and integrity speaks to that. If you do what you say, people are going to hear about it, and if you don't, people are going to hear about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We always say, our manufacturers are sort of a little bit removed from the field, and so that's why they hire us, is to be
The
dependent
buffer.
on that. But when things happen, we always say to those guys, "Hey, there's no secrets in the plumbing industry. we know what's going on." And occasionally, you'll have guys in positions that transition fairly quickly. There's one for us that's pretty notorious. I'll leave it at that. But that they have people that come in and will be in that. They know they're going to be in the territory for 1 year, and sometimes they'll say things that get back to us, and it's like, hey, we know these guys. We've been here for 20 years. We're going to be here 20 years longer, and God willing that they trust us, they depend on us, and
Yeah.
and we hear things. Not that we're into the gossip business. We don't want to be in that. We want to deal in truth. But
No, at the same time, people, either somebody new to the industry or somebody new to the territory, they might come to, a United Sales or a Pulley or somebody or, Harry Warren and go, hey, I'm about to go work with this person over here. What do you know about them? I mean, that happens, right?
oh yeah, 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 yeah. And It's interesting. Somehow or another, I've gotten involved with Gowa. I think they found out that I had this slide deck on pumps. We represent Liberty Pumps as well,
Yeah, yeah.
and so have had the opportunity to do some of the continuing education classes on pumps because it's not every septic system has a pump,
Mhm.
but so for that reason it's a little unusual for those guys. And so, but anyway, but one of the things that I always say in terms of installing the system is, remember that this thing's going to fail at some point and somebody's going to have to service this thing, and when they come back, I think you would want do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yeah.
When you go and you see a system that's not installed well,
Mm.
you sort of go, oh man, who did this? I find myself looking at plumbing installations, and I'll get pictures. I've got one on my phone right now that's just like, who did this? So I always try to say to those guys, reputation matters. Reputation matters, and it reflects. Sometimes it can be distorted, but generally speaking, it reflects, the quality of who you are, the character of who you are. And there are guys out there that have strong reputations, and there are guys out there that don't. And
Sure.
that's just it's critical. It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I wanted to, well, I guess one or two last things, but we've talked about it all along. But I think for those out there that don't know the plumbing industry, what you do is, I think if I get the name right, is a manufacturer's representative agency. Is that pretty
That's
accurate?
good. Yeah, you're learning.
All right.
You
So,
got it.
can you explain to those who don't know what that means? What does that mean?
Yeah, nobody knows what we mean. I think what we do. I think a lot of our manufacturers don't really know what we do. So I said, we cannot sell. We don't sell, to directly to the plumber. So in for us in plumbing, in sales, it's a three-step distribution process. So the manufacturer, and for us, the sales rep is in the middle. We're the evil middleman. We don't make anything. We don't set any pricing, and then we sell through wholesale distribution, ultimately to the end user, to the installer, to the homeowner, facility owner, whatever. So that's kind of where we sit. What we are is just basically a commissioned sales force in most cases in the plumbing channel. Most of the manufacturers have chosen to go with sales reps, and it gives them the ability to have more feet on the ground in every state or area, without getting crazy expense, all the expense that goes with it. So we've got 6 or 7 outside sales guys, 5 or 6 outside sales guys, 5 or 6 inside sales guys support, our sales efforts. And we just simply call on the wholesale distributors. We sell to them. We take in process orders from those guys, move those through to the manufacturer. We support. We're the sales and service support agent, to the manufacturers, and we support it by way of, when things go wrong or we have opportunities, as we call them in the sales business,
Mm-hmm.
that we would be able to be in the field to help. We're not installers, so we're not experts in terms of the plumbing part of it, but we can help. I love doing it with Liberty. I tell our guys, the more technical we can be, the better we are in terms of service. And so for me, I hope that explains kind of where we are and what we do. We're just basically a sales force that's on lease. We work on 30-day contracts, so we can be fired for no reason in 30 days. So we better do our job right. And I tell our guys that two things: one, the more technical we can be, the better off we are, because things happen. And it's interesting. Distributors have thousands of products that they can sell.
Mm.
Plumbers have thousands of products that they can install, and they can't be an expert on everything. They can have a general understanding of pumps, but
Yeah.
but there may be something unique to Liberty or to Grundfus, or tools, and all that. We get those calls every day, where they need help. They just need an extra set of eyes, maybe, or to help process. Who can I go to solve this problem? I was on a job site with, Miller Mechanical, and they were drilling through a new type of material. The fire code, was set so that they weren't real sure exactly what product to use. I was able to get them in touch with product, managers in Milwaukee. They actually came down, got on site, and it's that's the extreme where they're coming down from Milwaukee to help identify what's the best product to use for
Sure.
this. It may be something as small as a float that's hung up, or uh, commissioning a pump. So the better we can be in terms of technical to support the product, and then for our guys inside particularly, that we're just processing information, because as I say, we don't make anything. We generally don't set the pricing, and there's not a lot. We do stock, we do buy sell some things, but for us, it's processing information, because and as I said, the distributors, they got 12 things they need to get done yesterday. Plumbers are probably in the same boat.
Yeah.
And so the quicker we can be, we want to be fast, whether it be with a quote or with information, or where is my widget, that we would be quick with that. But also accuracy matters, as you say,
Mm.
the integrity part
Mhm.
of it, that we're not just giving something just to give it to get somebody off our back. I think what I've found through experiences, most guys will say, "Hey, if it's bad news, just give it to me. Just let me know,
Yeah. Just
where
tell
we
me.
are." Yeah, so that I can process how to move forward.
Well, I'm gonna push back a little bit because you say you're just a sales force. You guys are more than that. I mean, because I from my end of what I'm learning on the education side is y'all are, to me, whether it's pardon me, all the agencies that I've met so far, y'all are in the education space too. I mean, whether it's simply bringing in a manufacturer to have an education for local plumbers, or whether y'all are doing that yourselves for a distributor, y'all are in the education space too. And I think that's something that people don't know either, is because you do know product, you can help people understand how that product works.
Yeah, and that's been a big push, in the last, well, it's probably been more than the last 10 years, but it feels like it's been a big push on the rep side, that we would be in the training business. Um, as I say, the more technical the product, obviously, the more difficult it can be. And you're seeing agencies who are building training centers, training rooms in their own facilities.
Mm-hmm.
We've within the last year or so, we've invested in a Liberty Pumps product trailer that we can put on site, and then we've also bought a Milwaukee tool, big red van. I call it the big red submarine. The thing is massive, but it's a traveling showroom, and we pull tools off and demo them on the spot, and so we can demo product on location, and we've invested in those two vehicles alone. We've invested over $100,000 just on those.
Mm-hmm.
So it's obviously, we find it important, very important, and we want to have them out there. And it is part of the sales process for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, it is, as you say, it's part of the education
Mm-hmm.
process. We knew that we needed to be better, because Grundfos is the most technical product that we represent. It
Mm-hmm.
can be very technical boosters on multi-story buildings, and recirc pumps that are getting more and more technical, digital even, in the
Mm-hmm.
case of us for our new Alpha. But we had found out through our sales manager that our counterparts in Florida, Blumenauer, had a guy who was looking to get out of Florida, and so we helped him get out of Florida and got him to Atlanta. And he's incredibly gifted. John Mendez is his name, and I was just talking to him just now. I just, he is quick, and can do commissioning, and do
Wow.
service, and so we're constantly looking to get better. So again, guys who have experience, particularly in the field, um, I would say to them, don't discount the idea of maybe going into the service. And I know a lot of the rep agencies have hired plumbers. It's kind of a no in some cases to go. We don't want to poach anybody.
Sure.
But we've had two guys, one who had his journeyman's license, and one who had been in purchasing with a plumbing company,
Okay.
that have come through our doors. And so it's you need the full gamut of experience.
Cool. So what you mentioned several products, and I want to let you plug United Sales Agency for a second. So what all lines today are y'all helping get in the hands of distributors and plumbers?
All right, you're testing me now. I'll try to do it alphabetically. Atlas Filtri, which is an Italian-made water filtration product.
Okay.
Ariston, which is water heaters, American standard, and commercial as well. Um, we represent who else? Boots. I'll go through the ABG line, American Bath Group, which is a consortium that's bought up a lot of competitors in the bathtub
Oh, okay.
segment. We've got fiberglass, FRP, fiberglass reinforced product, Hamilton and Aquarius. We've got Boots, porcelain enamel steel, which is bathtubs and now shower pans. We've got Dreamline, which is a pressed product, and also Swanstone, which is a solid surface walls, shower pans, and the like.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Fernco, which is sort of the Kleenex of flexible connectors. Yeah, everybody wants a Fernco, but they don't necessarily get one when they go to the counter. I found that out when I was in wholesale. We've got Grundfos, which is clean water on the clean water side, plumbing, pumps, both recirc and pressure boost, water pressure boosting. We've got Jones Stevens, which is pieces and parts. Yeah, I think they say their average sales price of an item for Jones Stevens like 69 cents. So, toilet bolts and wax rings and all of those kinds of incorporated products. I think I was over there just recently. I think they said they had 18,000 SKUs in stock. So,
Good. Nice.
and they're close. They're in Moody, Alabama, which is nice.
Okay.
Let's see, Legend Valve, which is all sorts of valves and fittings as well. So I do need to know 90s and quarter bends and those kinds of things. Let's see what else. Liberty Pumps. I don't want to miss anybody.
I mean, I did ask you your favorite tool, and you said it was in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee.
I think it was a what was it? It was M12,
M18 press.
M18. Sorry,
Yeah,
M18 press tool. That's it.
It's funny. We're now. It's the barrier to entry on that product is very high because it's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But more and more of the fittings manufacturers are now wanting to go to press. I think that's an indication of maybe the lack of training that's out there, and you guys are seeing that. I know there's not a lot out there. There's not a lot of this kind of thing out there, and so the manufacturers are sort of, for lack of a better term, they're having to dumb down some of the product, and so and two, it speeds it up. I think Milwaukee sees one of their missions is because there are so few guys coming back in that now we need to make that guy do. He needs to be able
That
to
much
do
more.
1.5 times what. So press is a really cool product, and it's you don't have to shut the building down. You don't have to turn the water off, those kinds of things. And now all of these manufacturers that have press fittings. Now we as a sales force have to know which jaws go with which fittings and which tool can do. Yeah, so that tool can do a lot, even up to large diameter steel gas fittings. So yeah, that's a pretty cool tool. Yeah,
Awesome.
and it's expensive. Sorry, we want to be able to sell some of those.
Well,
yeah.
but at the same time, upfront investment, long term,
Right.
benefit.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, well, I think that's all I have. Is there anything else that you wanted to share?
No, I'll just say I'm very proud and thankful for the opportunity to be involved with you guys. We look around and we see there are not many of these types of training centers. And so anything we can do to support and really to encourage you guys and help however we can. It's fun to see you guys growing and now you're full for this next semester, which is awesome. And for anybody out there that's looking, who's in the area, this is such a cool place and so unique. And so we're thankful for the opportunity to be engaged with you guys. And we wish you all the luck.
Appreciate it a bunch, and I know you guys are supporting not just us. I mean, y'all are finding ways to support the industry. Y'all know how much it's hurting. I mean, I see the post when you're down at PHCC in Macon, and I mean, y'all guys, if y'all don't know who this agency is, y'all should. If you're a distributor, you need to call Doug if you don't have a relationship with the United Sales Agency yet. But they are truly supporting the industry. And I think that's the one thing that Chris, Tim, and I are so excited about is meeting people like Doug and creating those relationships so that we can continue to grow the industry and make sure that we're taking care of people's clean water and hot water and flushing toilets. So,
Amen. Yep.
Thank you so much, Doug.
Yep.
Folks, this is Keith with Trades Education Center again. Thank y'all for joining us for Trade Secrets. Y'all have a good one.